Everybody, with the properties, you ever wonder what the properties are worth? How you can know if a deal's a deal? Well, tonight, we're going to have Mr. Mike Morehead. He's going to tell us about appraisal, about houses and things. So, let's give Mike a warm, Greater Dayton round of applause.
Is my mic on? Can everybody hear me okay?
No.
Well, I know the market has to be up because the last time we met, we were in the room over at the Dayton Board of Realtors. There was no meal. So things are picking up, that's for sure. I'm happy for you. Tonight I'd like to discover a few things. I think you remember a little bit about my background. I first was licensed in real estate in 1969. And I sold real estate for 2 years. In 71, I got a broker's license. I still have that broker's license. I went with the Ohio Department of Transportation in 71, and I stayed there until 1984. During that time, when I left, I was Southwest Regional Supervisor for Southwest Ohio. We had 24 counties. Montgomery, Greene were part of the 24 counties. We hired all the appraisers for things like 675, airport access, things like that. From 1984 until the present time, I've primarily been an appraiser of my own company, but I still have my broker's license. Most of the time I keep it active because just to help my son-in-law buy and sell a little bit. He likes to do that, so I help him a little bit. So I was asked to come back again, and what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about, it says here, what's your property worth? I'd like to talk in general terms about appraising and about investing a little bit, and then we can get into the value part. I'd like to keep the last maybe 10 or 15 minutes for questions from you to see what you might have, and then you'll get my opinion. Remember, it's my opinion here. The first thing is, all you are, I'm sure, investors, else you wouldn't be here today. And the first thing I always, if you're going to be an investor, is to understand your market. Being an appraiser, I come across a lot of the bankruptcy court calls us, and we try to go out. I don't like to do that, but we've been involved with the bankruptcy court for a number of years. And some of the things we come across are just mind-boggling, okay? People from, let's say, out of town, California or something, they come in and they see the county records say this thing's worth $60,000. They can buy it for less than half. So they buy 4 or 5 of those houses, and once they get here, they realize they aren't worth 15 or 20. They weren't familiar with the market. Okay? If you're going to be an investor in a market, I think you should understand what that market is. If you're going to be buying a house, and I don't know if most of you are in residential or otherwise, it doesn't matter. But if you're in residential, I think I'd want to understand the value range in that market, in that particular segment of the market. Okay? Because if it says, well, this is $70,000. Well, if the primary prices in the market are $45,000 to $70,000, that means you're buying at the very top end of the market before you even buy the property and fix it up and do whatever you have to do with it. So understanding, that price range and how you fit into that, I think would be a good idea. Understanding what type of financing. A lot of neighborhoods, if you're going to buy an investment property, and some of you probably buy it to hold, and some of you probably buy it to flip. Just remember, if you buy it to flip, and that neighborhood is a primary FHA, VA type buyer for that neighborhood, for you to get get your property sold, you're probably going to have to sell it through that type of financing. And when you go to that type of financing, many times the buyers want you, the seller, to pay some or all of the closing. They try to include it into the sale price. Okay, and that affects your bottom line. So as long as you understand that going in, that the type of buyer that you have, then you can kind of estimate your bottom line starting from there. And again, as clients, when you buy a property, you should have a pretty good idea on who's my potential buyer. Okay, if you're buying a house to flip in the Oregon district, you're looking at a different type buyer with different wants and needs than someone that's buying a house in a national home that's got 900 square feet on a slab. Okay? So these are some of the things that you should look at, Also today, I thought we'd talk a little bit about what are buyers and sellers, especially buyers, looking at in the market today. And this is one thing when you're buying a house. You ever watch these shows on TV, these fixer-uppers and all that? I like to watch those. But they do things, folks, that's not realistic a lot of times from what you folks are doing. Okay? And the reason I say that is, how many times have you seen a show that they don't knock out all the walls and open up the space and replace all the flooring and do some monumental structural things, okay? This is nice if you got it, and if you got the right price. That also concerns me a lot of times when they buy it for $90,000 and they say you got it all in, $200,000 additional budget. Is that me? Okay. Starting to do that again. Pardon? Okay, we're talking about your clients, your potential buyers for your property there, to understand what they're looking for and what's going to help you turn your property around quickly and for the best profit. A lot of times today, everyone's looking for hardwood floors, and they're looking for, certain modern stuff, but I'll get into that in the kitchen and that here in a minute here. The one thing I think investors should look at is market activity. You're in a market right now that's real active, okay? There's a lot of buyers out there supposedly and very few listings. So if you got a listing right now, you're in pretty good shape. I talked to a realtor last week that said they put an offer in on a house $5,000 above list price and didn't get the profit. Okay? I wouldn't count on that, folks. Here's the thing about real estate. And I teach a class down at Sinclair College. I have for over 30 years. Some of you might have been in the class, I don't know. But there's the economic trends and there's the real estate trends, okay? And the people in real estate a lot of times make a serious mistake. Be it the investors, be it developers or whatever, as they assume that the real estate market and the economy go parallel, okay? on their cycle. Okay? So when the economy starts to go down, the trouble is, folks, real estate is a tandem and not parallel. It follows. So when the real estate or the economy starts to go down, real estate's still going up. It's not following it immediately. And that's why a lot of times people, if they don't follow the trends and get a good feel of the market, they're out there buying and doing things when the market is down. That's what happened back in 08 and 09. People were buying property based on 06 and 07 values, and we've been in a recession for a year and a half. Okay? But the good news is we've coming out of it, okay? Now the thing is, the trouble is that we've probably been coming out of it for a year or more, okay? But people were kind of skeptical. So the economy's been picking up, but now the real estate is catching up and starting to go up with, okay? So that's one thing you should look at. They asked me to, when you have a piece of property you want to sell, what's some of the things that would help the value? Location. Location, location, location. Right? That's always it, isn't it? That's true. I'll get to location here in a second. On a particular property, folks, one of the first things that your buyer's going to see and the market's going to see is your street appeal. Okay? So, if you have a good street appeal, I mean, the front of the house looks nice, it's landscaped, the yard is manicured pretty good, that's a step in the right direction. Okay? I have a friend of mine that has a lot of real estate. So he goes over, he said to me, this house is in Kettering, you wanted me to take a look at it. You want to list it. That was me with someone else. So I go by it, the grass is overgrown there, the garage is not looking too good, the driveway's not in great shape. And he wants top dollar. He said, well, once they get inside, he said, they're really going to like it, I can sell it. I said, you're not going to get them inside. Either they're going to look on the realtor's photo or your photo or the street, drive by it, and they're going to say, why should I pay top dollar for this when I can see from the outside there's problems, and they automatically assume that the problems continue on inside. Okay? So street appeal, I think is one of the first things. People, and I'm preaching to the choir here a little bit here, people are always saying, well, what should I do inside? What rooms are important? Most of the time I see, if you're going to put some money inside the house, the kitchen and the baths are kind of a priority. Okay? So if you want to update, remember how the realtors love to say updated, or the buyers love to say it's dated. Okay? That means, oh, I like it, but I got to do this, or if they've done something, new cabinets, new appliances, and that they have to, they like that too. So if you're going to do something inside the house, I wouldn't think much about a glass-in jacuzzi or something that is so unusual, it's not typical. Here's one point that is extremely important. If you're an investor or buying or selling, real estate there, never ever get your personal feelings and your personal likes in the property. You might like real bright colors or some kind of extremely, unusual design or something. When we appraise a property, we don't appraise for that one person that might buy it for that and like exactly what you put in there. We basically appraise it based on the typical buyer in the market. Okay? The typical buyer. trouble is sometimes people don't understand, understand it, okay? We talk about over improvements and under improvements. Here's where you got to be careful. I was appraising a house. For years and years I did it. Probably no one did any more tax appeal appraisals than me. I would do 60 or more a year. And there'd be anywhere from a $10,000, $15,000 property to a $2 million property. Okay? Just for an example, there was a house in Washington Township. The county said it was 7,500 square feet or 7,200 square feet, and so I went out and I took a look at it. First of all, the county made a mistake, and they included the lower level, the basement, in the living area. There were really 4,800 square feet in the house and 2,400 in the finished basement. Okay? We recognize that finished basement, the percent and the quality of finish, but not as living area. We mainly look at the above grade when we talk about so many square feet there. But I bring up this house because when you walked in the front door, the county had it appraised at, I think it was like $750,000, just under $800,000. And you looked in there, and it was a circular stairway. It had marble floors, a fabulous chandelier. The kitchen was really nice. But when you got to the back half of the house, they had rubberized baseboard, just commercial carpet, average doors. It was like you're going into a different house. I asked the man that went with us, I said, are you sensitive about this? Or I said, we're here on a tax appeal. He said, no, I'm not sensitive about it. So I explained to him that the house in the front part of it was finished nice, but the back half was way under improved. So if you walked in that front of the house and assumed that the whole house was finished like the front entry, the 750 would have been easily correct. Okay? The Board of Revision said, okay. Then he didn't want to let him in. I said, you got to let him in. I looked at his attorney, I said, you don't let him in, you're going to lose. So when he let the county appraiser go back out and look and see exactly what was there, plus they corrected the square footage too, they brought it down to $470,000. Okay? But I'm just saying, folks, I've seen people put $30,000, $40,000 in a kitchen, and it's a $75,000, $80,000 house. I've seen them put, you know how people, and they should be proud of it, they say, we got triple pane, tilled out, all wood panel windows or something like that. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But is it typical for the area? If you put $12,000 or $15,000 or more in those windows, and it's a $45,000 house, you're going to find out that the term cost and value are not the same. And I think as an investor, that's one thing you have to understand, that cost and value are not the same. Just because it costs something doesn't mean that it's worth that. Another thing appraisers talk about, folks, is market value. The old school said, and I had people come up to me for years and years and says, whatever the two parties agree on, that's the market value for that property. And the first thing I say, that's absolutely wrong. Okay? It might be, but more than likely, it could not be just as easy. Just because two parties agree on something, we don't know what the circumstances are. In appraising, we call something called arm's length sale. Okay? Is it an arm's length sale? I take my class down to the sheriff's sale. on Fridays. I'm sure some of you go down there. Do you think that's an arm's length sale, the sheriff's sales? Is the buyer a willing buyer, willing seller? That's the market value definition. Is that a willing seller? No, those poor folks are losing their house. How many times have we seen people that are being transferred, or they're going through a divorce, or is it an estate where there's 4 or 5 relatives, but they're siblings and everything, and they're in about 3 different states, and they don't want the house sitting empty over the winter, so they just take what they can get. So is the value of that sale of that property a market value indicator? I would suggest it's not. I would suggest it's not. And then the reason I bring that up, folks, is years ago, legal aid came to me, and they said, there's something called predatory lending, and we're not real sure what this is all about. I thought that's kind of strange. I said, here's the attorney for that. And I said, but I'll come along and I'll come down and I'll show you what predatory lending is. Okay? So I got 3 or 4 examples where a house was bought in February for $12,000. And in May or June it sold for 80-some thousand with no improvements. Doesn't that, you have to be an appraiser to say something's wrong here, okay? Okay, I agreed to do a few of them for him. I did 30. All the ones you saw on TV when they were several years ago when they were promoting this predatory lending, thing, making people aware. Everyone was on TV was that. There's one in East Dayton. I'll just give you an example. 2 people bought the house for $24,000. They want to get it reappraised, and they had 2 appraisers come out of Columbus that didn't know the market. Instead of being down there at Wayne and Wyoming area, not in South Park, but in the other side where the Kroger's was going to go, they went up into Belmont and picked, that's where Belmont was a lot stronger. Up into Belmont, got 3 2-stories, same looks like us, same square footage, about older, and came up with $82,000. The bank charged these 2 ladies $20,000 in closing costs. Legal aid was just trying to save their house. I went in and appraised it, found 4 or 5 sales right within about a 4-block area. I came in at $26,000 or $27,000. Okay? The reason I say that, folks, is when you're out there investing and you want to buy a house, I'm sure you look at comparables. Okay? Make sure you understand what those comparables are. Are they truly comparable? Are they truly arm's length sales? Okay? The trouble is, and when I teach my class down there at the Board of Realtors, okay, 95% of them are going to be realtors. And I said, when you get out into the real world, and you probably believe this too, appraisers are not necessarily your friend. You've done all this work, you've done all this there, and all of a sudden these appraisers come along and short appraise your property. So what I try to do in my classes, I say, I want to show you how to, if you get short appraised, how to take that and give them additional data to get the value back up and maybe put your deal back together. Okay? And one thing I tell them, and number 1, I said, let's say, and I don't know if most of you know what Huber South is. Huber South is brick ranch houses, 1,100 square feet, 1-car garage, 3-bedroom, 1 bath. Everybody, that's it. They sell, I'm just guessing, I haven't done it for a while, I'm just guessing 110, 115,000 max in that range. Okay? So let's say you sell it for 112,000 and it comes back at 102. And it's about to blow your deal up. Okay? I said the first mistake you don't want to make is the tri-level that sold across the street for $200,000 is 2,500 square feet in a 2.5-car garage. Do not send the appraiser that comp. okay? Because it's not a comp, it's a sale, okay? Find something that's similar to yours, okay? And don't worry if it's not 112. Let's say you find one at 108, okay? 108,000, 4,000 on there. But yours has a new roof, updated electric, newer carpet, and then you point that out to the appraiser and the bank and say, here's 108, but we have over and above that, that's why the 112 is correct. And you should bring the value up to wherever we're at. Okay? Okay. Ever see where someone converts a garage into living area? And everybody knows the more living area you got, the more value you got. That's not true. In some areas it could be. If you go into the Huber properties up north, the market accepts it, and it's very typical. There's a lot of properties that have done it, and you will get close to what it costs to convert it into the value. I'll give you two examples. I don't know have you ever been to a federal marshal sale? A federal, not a sheriff's sale in Montgomery County, but a federal. Some years ago, I went to a federal because I was buying and selling at the sheriff's sale. I was single then too. But so I go into the, you know how you go to the sheriff's sale and they say it's appraised at this, and we're going to start at 2/3, and this is what you're going to end up. You know, that's the beginning price. You got to start. So I go down to the federal there, and at 10 o'clock, there's this contractor that I brought with me, one other person, and the federal marshal. The federal marshal said it's 10 o'clock, we're going to start the sale. And I said, okay, what's the minimum bid? He said, I knew the property's worth $40,000. It was out in Kennedy, a little ranch. This was how many years ago it was now. But I said, well, what's the bidding bid? He said, I can't tell you. I said, you can't tell me what the minimum bid? He said, no. I said, that's fine, I don't care. I said, 10 grand. The guy across me says 12. I say 13. He says 14. I say 15, and he walks away. I'm about ready to give my contractor and me are ready to give each other high fives, okay? Now the federal marshal said, now I can tell you the minimum bid. I said, well, what's the minimum bid? He said, $24,000. I said, I'll still take it. So I bought it, okay, $24,000. Now here, it was on a little cul-de-sac off of Dorothy Lane, okay, in Kettering. They had converted the one-car garage into a 12 by 20 family room. The trouble, folks, was there was no room to put a garage up front, and there was no room to get around it to build a garage in the back. So you either had to live with the family room or tear it out. Folks, I could have sold it 3 times over for the same amount of money if I had torn that living room or that living area out and put a garage back. It took me, I don't know how many months to sell it. I found that one person. I sold it for $40,000. But I'm just saying, folks, same way over in Spicer Heights and Beaver Creek. They converted their garage into a playroom, a sewing room, and then 6 foot in the front. They still had the regular looking garage in the front, into a storage. The transfer company or the corporate people couldn't sell it. It looked like it was priced right, 180, 170 some thousand. So when I saw that garage, same scenario, you couldn't build in front, couldn't get around. I told them, they said, what should we do? I said, tear it out. They refused to do that. 3 months later, they tore it out, and 1 month later, they sold it. Okay? Because it's the market that tells you what to do. That's the secret, the market. Okay? All right. Let me give you one other example. How are we doing on time?
3 minutes.
Oh, 3 minutes. I don't even have time for these people to ask me any questions. I won't give you the other example. I'll give you one other example. You want to ask me questions later. Maybe we'll run over, maybe numbers will outnumber that. But I went to a little 2-bedroom house in Kettering on Hazel Avenue, okay? I walked through, and then I walk in, it's 900 square feet. An investor, a type person had it. I looked in the first bedroom, it's 6 foot by 10 foot with a garage, or with a closet. 6 foot by 10 foot with a closet. Second bedroom, 6 foot by 10 foot with no closet. And the third bedroom is 10 by 12. And then he had a kitchen and a bath, okay? And I thought, this is strange. So I started asking myself, what happened here? Well, we read in a book, or we saw on TV, a 3-bedroom will sell quicker than a 2-bedroom. So we converted this to a 3-bedroom. Well, folks, the market doesn't like a 6 by 10 room, okay? So what I tell them, same thing I told the others, tear it out and go back there. So instead of adding value, folks, it actually detracted because they had to do the demolition and start it. Okay, we don't have any time for any questions for anybody?
Yes, a couple of questions. Anybody got questions for Mr. Morehead?
Yes.
Since there are not that many listings available and there's a lot of buyers, do you think you can list something a little bit higher?
Yes, Tamar?
Mike, can you repeat the question so everybody can hear?
She said, since there's very few listings, and can you list it a little bit higher and see what happens? Sure, I would do that. Now, you know, I take my appraiser hat off, I'm taking my realtor hat back on, and my investor. Absolutely. I mean, if you put it on with other ones that sold in the last 6 months, and you know the market's been taking up, okay? But you always run the chance it's going to be short appraised. But I've been seeing some of these that are over the list price bought. They've been appraising out. I don't do a lot of residential, so I don't. But I most certainly would test the market and go higher. Yes.
You mentioned earlier that when you determine value of the real estate or when you buy, you should know what area you're in, if you're in the FHA area or not. How do you determine that?
If you go to, I don't know if you belong to the Dayton Board of Realtors, when they find someone that has sales to the Dayton Board, it'll not only tell you the sale price, it usually tells you the type of financing and how much they borrow, but it's really the type of financing. But you can talk to other realtors in the area, investors, neighborhood associations, and then. But I think that's important that you understand, folks. What it's all to the bottom line as investors. Yes.
If you're rehabbing and you're going into different areas, would you say that obviously you look to see what's been sold within 6 months or so, but could you also, or would you say it's okay to take the houses that have sold, the square footage of the house, and divide that into the cost? Would that give you an idea of a comp for a house?
Well, it's a ballpark, yeah. And, you know, a lot of times you get into the bigger houses in Oakwood, they'll say it's selling for $140, $130 a square foot. Smaller houses, let's say under $100,000, around that, your client is more interested in room sizes, a 10 by 12 or 10 by 10 or 10 by 14 bedroom versus 900 or 1,100 feet. But I think what you're doing, when I look at, I think that's a good question, because if I'm looking at comps, and this one sold for $60 a square foot, and that's 64, and that's 68, and this one sold for 91, it kind of waves a flag at me to say, hey, what's going on? But you should be able to get a range, and then that should help you, give you a ballpark there. Okay. All right, folks. I guess next time we'll be eating at the Netherton Hilton down in Cincinnati. The market keeps going. Okay, good luck for everybody.
Thank you.